Yeah, Latifi coming off a good performance, Ken Flo, in which he earned his first UFC bonus in what was his 10th UFC start, the submission win over Ovince St. Preux. Corey Anderson might be coming into his own. He had the back-to-back knockout losses not all that long ago, but has now strung together back-to-back wins. And as Marcus mentioned, the last one is a big feather in his cap because Glover Teixeira was on the other side in July. What do you think here? Close fight, relatively speaking, according to Vegas. Latifi or Corey Overtime Anderson for you?
This is an interesting one. I think Corey Anderson, with his wrestling background, might be able to surprise Latifi with a takedown here and there, but I don't know. It's going to be tough against the very strong and short Latifi. You know, this is a guy who is built like a fire hydrant, as you said. He's very strong. He has some good takedowns himself. But more than anything else, I think for Corey, if he wants to win this fight, he has to outpoint him, utilize his reach, and kind of stick and move. If he tries to trade in the pocket, I think he's going to be in big trouble. Latifi is probably sure to land at least one of those big shots. And if he does, I see him getting a TKO win. I got to go with Latifi here.
All right, next up, feature bout in the welterweight division, Michael Chiesa, the minus 155 favorite. He moves up to 170 pounds, probably with finality here. I think his lightweight days are done. He faces the natural-born killer, Carlos Condit, the plus 125 underdog at present. Marcus, who do you have here, Chiesa or Condit?
So I think the story heading into this fight is we have two guys who've hit a rut patch and are looking to right the ship. Unfortunately, only one will be able to do so. Condit's a veteran. He's savvy. He's a former interim champ, two-time title challenger. Coming into this fight on a 4-fight skid. Chiesa's moving up from lightweight, lost his last 2 bouts, but one of those was the controversial stoppage to Lee. I think we'll see a renewed, stronger Maverick at welterweight, and I think his submission grappling is going to get him the win, ultimately.
Matchup-wise, a lot of people have taken Carlos Condit down and had their way with him on the ground. It'll be interesting to see what kind of headspace Carlos Condit is in. So, Ken Flo, I'm going to take you back to February 4th, 2012, UFC 143. You and I did that 3D broadcast of the pay-per-view for people watching in movie theaters. Do you remember when we did that for UFC 143?
I absolutely do.
I know your first pay-per-view was UFC 83, but
yes.
For me, first time I called a pay-per-view, so to speak, when it was actually, a call of those fights was that one, UFC 143. Condit beat Nick Diaz that night and improved to 28-5. He has lost 7 of 9 since, as Marcus outlined, 4 in a row. Sort of the opposite of Anthony Smith in terms of the pro record kind of flipping late. Last win, Thiago Alves, May of 2015 in Goiânia, Brazil. What do you think about Condit this weekend against Chiesa?
Honestly, I really do not know. First of all, did Marcus pick Chiesa?
He did.
He picked Chiesa. This is a tough one for me. You have Chiesa going up to 170 pounds, obviously known for that takedown and rear naked choke. He is tall and lanky at 155 pounds, but he will not enjoy that reach or lankiness here against Carlos Condit, who has an inch on him height-wise. I think they have right around the same reach here. But I think Condit is by far the better striker, and I think that he is showing some flashes of kind of wanting to be in there. There was a little bit more passionate moments, in my opinion, from Condit in his last few fights, despite him not getting the result he wanted. I don't know, man. I'll go the other way. I think Carlos Condit will be able to stop most of the takedowns and be able to score a win on his feet against Chiesa.
See, Ken Flo's just trying to take this out of the judge's hands, right? You don't want to draw at the end of the main event challenge.
I'm going for it, dude.
I'm going for it. I like this. Yeah. Man, this is crazy. I never think about the main event challenge when I'm calling fights. I can assure you. But unlike past years, this one is coming down to it, right?
Yeah.
And the fact that you guys just fell on 2 different sides of 2 of the first 3 fights, I'm getting a little bit anxious here. I'm hitting, but you can't see that. All right, co-headliner. I am so excited for this fight, right? This is the first true women's super fight in UFC history, unless I'm mistaken, right, in which 2 belt holders are going at it. Amanda Nunes moving up to featherweight to challenge the all-time world beater, Chris Cyborg. Cyborg favored, of course, but not nearly as inflated a price as you've gotten for past fights. She's minus 250. Amanda Nunes about plus 230 or so. Marcus, this is a championship fight. As such, we'll need the round and the method of victory. Who leaves Las Vegas the UFC women's featherweight champion?
All right. Well, both of these fighters love to be the bully. They're both known for stalking their opponents and pushing the pace, and frankly, they love to play at their feet and throw. Now, I think this is the toughest fight that either athlete has entered into, at least in recent memory. On Cyborg's end, the only fight that comes close is her bout with Holly Holm, which went the distance. I think that a lot of Holm's success in that fight was probably due to her stick and move style. While in theory, at least, this fight could be more competitive, I don't see it going the distance, frankly. I think that Cyborg will lure Nunes into a firefight, and there are only so many times you could do that without paying the price. I see her investing in the body early, consistently marching Nunes down, and eventually finding the TKO, let's say, in the fourth round.
All right, Cyborg, round 4, TKO. All right, so Amanda Nunes, Kenny, has won 7 in a row. She hasn't lost a fight in 4 years. Cyborg, of course, unbeaten, dating to her pro debut in 2005. She's 20-1. She would be 40-1 if she could consistently get enough opponents to fight her. Here she draws a woman in Nunes who many believe has the best chance to at least give her a competitive fight, if not beat her. But a lot of sharps that I've spoken to feel like they think people are sort of making even a leap with that Cyborg, this gives her the opportunity to really prove her greatness for once. Who do you think wins this fight, and how do they get it done?
Another awesome fight here for 232.
So good.
It's amazing. This is the fight I've always wanted to see. This is a true women's super fight here. I do believe that Amanda Nunes has the skills to beat Cris Cyborg. And I think that if Cris Cyborg wins this fight against Nunes, it will absolutely prove her greatness as perhaps the greatest female mixed martial arts fighter ever. Right. So I think there's a lot on both sides of fighters to prove. Now, you talked about the inactivity of Cyborg, just based on the fact that you can't find her many opponents. There's not a lot of women who want to step up and fight Cyborg. I understand that. I get that. I'm sure there's a lot of men that don't want to fight Cris Cyborg. I think at this fight, at 145 pounds, I think Nunes still has the ability to win this fight. I think she's going to be faster. I think she throws perhaps the cleaner combinations. I think Cris Cyborg is tougher mentally and physically, however. So it's a really tough fight to pick, but I'm going with the other side. I'm going with Amanda Nunes. I think Nunes has been busier. I think she's faced tougher competition over the course of her mixed martial arts career, and I think Nunes surprises everybody and becomes a 2-division champ in the UFC.
How about that? So Amanda Nunes plus 230, which would mean 1 point for the win, another 2 for her being the underdog, and we'll also give you a chance to give us a round and a method of victory unless you don't want those points, but I think you probably want to try to give us a round, kid. What do you think?
You better believe it. I'm going round 3, TKO, Amanda Nunes.
Round 3 TKO for Amanda Nunes. I really wonder what kind of Amanda Nunes is going to come in there, right? Because I think certainly it's hard for her to make 35, but does that discipline help her in training, right? I don't know. We'll see what type of version we get out of Amanda Nunes. Dean Thomas, I think, is going to join us right after the fight. He knows he's got his work cut out for him in preparing for Cris Cyborg. All right. Main event, the rematch between Jon Jones and Alexander Gustafsson, and that is your headliner for UFC 232, Marcus. Jon Jones minus 280, Alexander Gustafsson plus 255 with the round and the method. Who do you like, Marcus, Jones or Gus?
All right, I know I'm going to catch a lot of flack for this, but look, if Jones comes out looking like the Jones who fought OSP, I have no doubt that Gus will win the fight. I think we both know why I mentioned that fight, so I won't belabor the point. Instead, I'll just say that if Jones does come in looking great, like the guy who fought Gus last time, I still think Gus can win this fight. I mean, Jones' style of defense turns on him being the much bigger, longer man. He keeps his arms out and his fingers, frankly. He also likes to kick at the knees. Last time they fought, Gus was able to penetrate that defense, even taking him down a few times. Also, Gus just seems super confident about this fight. He seems like he really thinks he won the last one, and he'll win this one. And frankly, I believe that he believes that. And he seems much more secure going into this fight. I'm picking Gus.
Wow. Gus by decision, did you say, Marcus?
That's right.
Yeah, I mean, if I'm making a case for Gustafsson, it's rooted in a lot of what you said. I thought you made a lot of salient points, and I do believe that he is his best version to date, right? Even though maybe some suggest he's on the outside of his fighting prime looking back in. He is also fighting the guy who I still believe is the greatest mixed martial arts talent that we have seen step foot inside the octagon. Kenny, John Jones has never lost in MMA unless, of course, you consider that DQ in the Matt Hamill fight. The last win, July 2017 over Daniel Cormier, now a no contest, right? But consider 18 times he has prepared for an opponent in the UFC. 18 times he has beaten that man. And no man in UFC history can lay claim to an 18-fight winning streak, which I know on paper he does not have. It would be the longest winning streak in UFC history. The man to give him his toughest fight, I think irrefutably, Alexander Gustafsson. It was 5 years ago. Main event challenge might come down to this fight, Kenny. Who wins the rematch? How do they get it done?
Geez, first of all, their first fight was one of the greatest title fights I had ever seen. Still one of the greatest title fights of all time. So I am giddy just thinking about this fight. You could argue, you can make a strong argument that Alexander Gustafsson, style-wise, matches up better against John Jones than anyone in that division. Why? I think he's able to read a variety of strikes extremely well. He has a very good eye to read kicks, and John Jones, that's what he's going to have to use in this fight. I don't think John Jones wants to make it a boxing match against someone like Alexander Gustafsson. I think Gustafsson is just a little bit sharper with his hands. And perhaps his counters. He's been moving very well. His pivots, his footwork, his ability to create angles. That uppercut is one of the best weapons in the 205-pound division. But am I supposed to pick against the greatest fighter of all time? Am I supposed to pick against John Jones here based on everything we have seen? And yes, he didn't have the greatest performance against OSP. But he still got it done, and he still won pretty easily, in my opinion. There was nothing that really OSP did against John Jones. Now, the focus of John Jones, I think he realizes that this is his second chance, or well, maybe third or fourth chance here in the UFC, to go out there and prove how great he is. A lot of people weren't sure if he was even going to be able to fight in the UFC ever again. He has this opportunity. It seems like he's accepted his struggles and his demons here in his career and what he has to do in his life. And I think we are going to see a John Jones who's extremely motivated. Now, we didn't see that in that first fight against Alexander Gustafsson. From what I heard, John Jones was partying. He wasn't taking that fight serious. He maybe trained for like 2 weeks for that fight against Gustafsson. Both fighters have changed and improved a great deal. And I think there's also a reason why Gustafsson has held out for so long for this kind of fight against John Jones. He believes he can win. Right. I'm just not so sure. I think John Jones wins this fight round 4 by TKO.
Round 4 TKO for John Jones, the official pick for Ken